Hi, I'm Tiendo from City Lights Church of Orange County. At City Lights, we've been studying Philippians in the Bible in a series we're calling Unshakable Joy. This week, we're studying Philippians chapter 1, verse 18 through 30. In this passage, Paul is talking about some of his hardship that he's experiencing. Paul is writing Philippians from a jail cell. He's chained to a Roman guard, and he's facing torture and possible execution. But he tells his people not to worry about him, but to rejoice. He says, because of this, I rejoice. I will continue to rejoice. The key verse in this passage of scripture is verse 21. It says, for to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Paul's saying that he is living for Christ. And the question for us is, what are we living for? Most people, even committed Christians, committed churchgoers, would probably put something else in place of Christ. For to me, we would say, to live is family, that we're living for our families. For to me, to live is success, that we're pursuing success. Or for to me, to live is friendship or love, or to be happy. For to me, to live is comfort, security. For to me, to live is respect or power or wealth. The question is, what are we living for? Most churchgoers and Christians cannot say, for to me, to live is Christ. Now, we may believe in Jesus, but we're probably not living for Jesus. And there's a big difference between believing in Jesus and living for Jesus. Why is that? Why is it that so many people believe in Jesus, but actually don't live for Jesus? I think there's at least three reasons why people, even committed Christians, don't actually live for Jesus. The first reason we don't live for Jesus is that we are too focused on the here and now. That our goal is happiness and comfort right now, right here. And if that's the primary goal that we're pursuing, comfort and success and happiness right now, the role that Jesus plays in our life is the same role that we give to a spare tire in our car. You know, a spare tire is really important. It's good to have a spare tire, but a spare tire is tucked away in a hidden place, and you pull it out just in case something bad happens. It's good to have a spare tire, but we only go to it when we're in trouble. And that's the role that we give to Jesus. He's a spare tire because we're just focused on the here and now, and we actually don't need Jesus until we get into trouble. Now, Jesus doesn't want to be a spare tire. He actually wants to be the steering wheel in our lives. But we are too focused on the here and now, and we don't actually live for Jesus. The second reason we don't live for Jesus is that we doubt that Jesus would really satisfy us. Deep down inside, we believe in Jesus, but deep down inside, most of us think that would Jesus really fulfill my needs? That we're not really looking forward to heaven and to be with Jesus because we don't think that it will be that great of an experience. Like being with Jesus doesn't sound like a fulfilling and satisfying experience. Because of that, we're pursuing money and entertainment and success because we think those things are the things that are going to satisfy our soul. And we don't think Jesus will satisfy our soul. But you got to realize that God created us with this deep emptiness inside our being, inside our soul, that can only be fulfilled by Him. Corey ten Boom once said that you will never learn that God is all you need until He's all that you have. And one of the reasons why we don't live for Jesus is because we don't think that He will really satisfy us. In fact, Jesus is the only thing that can really satisfy our souls. And the third reason we don't live for Jesus is that we don't realize what a treasure Jesus really is. We don't realize how precious Jesus is. In Matthew 13, Jesus tells us a parable. He says, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy, he went and sold all that he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. And when he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. In this parable, there's a man who's walking through an empty field. He stumbles on this treasure. He opens it up. He finds all these jewels and gold. And so he reburies that treasure in that field. And he goes home and he takes everything that he owns. He puts it on eBay and he sells everything that he has. He sacrifices it. And he says with joy he sells everything he has so he could have enough money to buy that field. And it says he does all that. He sacrifices, sells all his possessions with joy. Why? Because he knows how much that treasure in that field is worth. In this parable, that treasure represents Jesus, right? And that man stumbles onto Jesus and he realized, I'm going to give up everything I have and with joy so I could gain Jesus. But many of us are not like this man. We stumble onto this treasure, we stumble on Jesus, but we don't actually think it's that treasure is really worth that much. Therefore, why should we go and sell everything we have to invest our all to gain Jesus? Right? So one of the main reasons we don't live for Jesus is we don't realize what a treasure Jesus really is. We don't value Jesus that much. The truth of the matter is you may believe in Jesus. You may be a believer in Jesus, but there's a big difference between believing in Jesus and living for Jesus. And you'll never start living for Jesus until Jesus becomes your treasure. The question is, how do I begin to live for Jesus? How do I get started? What are your next steps? Well, I want to suggest that there are 3 next steps that I want you to consider taking. Step number 1, very simple. Say yes. If you're a believer, a follower in Jesus right now, Jesus is asking you to do something right now. And you probably know what that thing is. But you've been saying no to Jesus. You've been kind of saying, no, I don't really want to do that. God has been talking to you. Maybe he's been asking you to make a change in your life. Maybe he's asking you to walk away from some unhealthy influences in your life, or to take a next step in faith, to risk something, to become more committed in church, or to get involved in leadership, to start serving, to go out there and spread the good news, to talk about Jesus. And this is the thing. You can't say, for to me to live is Christ, if you keep saying no to Christ. Right? So how do you get started? Start saying yes. Right? Start saying yes when Jesus asks you to do something. The second step is to go deeper. Go deeper in your relationship with Jesus. Many people say they believe in Jesus, but only on a surface level. They only have a surface relationship with Jesus. And maybe this is where you're at. The only time that God has your attention is for a few hours a week. And maybe you go to church on Sunday, and that's great. You're a regular attender. Maybe you even go to a small group in the midweek, or you do. But that only represents a few hours of your week. And throughout the rest of your time, you don't even think about Jesus. You don't really have an ongoing, growing relationship with Jesus, right? So perhaps God is calling you right now to go deeper, and to develop your relationship with God. And one of the key characteristics of a growing Christian is that they spend time with God throughout their week in personal devotions. They've developed a habit of reading the Bible, of praying, of journaling, of speaking to God. And so this is the point here. You can't ever get to that point of saying, for to me to live is Christ, if you don't actually spend time with Christ. So maybe this is the step you need to take to go deeper in your relationship with God, to actually spend time with Him. And the third step is to make a difference. If you want to live for Christ, you will have to start doing the same things what Jesus came to do. Jesus said, I've come to seek and save the lost. And if you want to follow me, I'll make you fishers of men. And if you want to live for Christ, you will have to be an extension of Jesus in the lives of others around you. Right now, there are people that God has strategically placed you in their lives for you to make a difference in their lives. There are some people around you right now who are discouraged, they're confused, they're hurting, they're far away from God, they have questions, and God has placed you in their lives so that you can be an extension of Jesus. You could be Jesus' hands and His feet and the voice of Jesus in someone's life. You could be a blessing to them. And part of living for Jesus involves continuing in the mission of Jesus. That you can't ever say, for to me to live is Christ, if you're not involved in the work of Christ. So where do you begin in living for Christ? Very simply, start saying yes when Jesus asks you to do something. Go deeper in your relationship with God, get to know Him, spend more time in the Word, and then make a difference. Seek to be a blessing to others. And if you make a commitment to grow in these 3 areas, I believe that one day you'll be able to say with the Apostle Paul, for to me To live is Christ, and to die is gain.